So, given the election, 2020 in general just being a complete and utter mess with COVID and everything else that's happened, I think I've forgotten to take a little bit of time to start imagining the better world that I want to see as a leftist. I think that, it's good to root oneself in reality, especially during a pandemic and during this intense election season that's left us all exhausted. But I think it's just as valid and important to imagine that better world that theory wants to bring us to. So we have some ideas to start maneuvering everything towards that goal. For me, one of the first questions that always comes up when I try to think about a better world is what is the reason that we labor or work? And when I was in college, there were a lot of people in the computer science department who called themselves the quote unquote hardest working lazy people, or some variant of that. There was always some variant of that. Either they were the laziest hard workers or whatever. And what they meant by that is they were the type of people, computer scientists in general, I think this applies to, but certainly in the department that I was in, it was very apparent that most of them would be the type of people who would make a calculator to solve a basic math problem. So if that basic math problem ever occurred again, they already had the calculator written. They didn't have to do the work again. Instead of having to brute force through math problem after math problem, or basic arithmetic, I should say, they would just make a calculator. They were the kind of people who would write a program to come up with a general solution and have it in a database so that everybody could use it. And I think that actually informed a lot of my leftist perspectives when I was in college. A lot more than I realized, even though I don't think I had quite the language for it to describe it and to put it in leftist terms at the time. It was fascinating to me that computer scientists, despite being made under capitalism, had such a wide amount of information shared between the different languages and coding that was used, and just being able to just cite the person who wrote it and just throw it into the main library of different codes, and you could just call it right into your program, and it was there. And when when I think about that and I think about its relationship to work, I feel like that's kind of where I see society needing to go in terms of that. I think that there's two basic types of work, right? There's the work that provides basic sustenance for all human beings. Can we grow enough food? Can we provide enough water to every single person? Can we provide medicine to the sick or those who need it? Can we maintain the status of the basic necessities of life, like a roof over the head? Like, when those are met, though, that should be the end of work. That should be the end of our toil. And I see the labor after that as a form of play, a form of innovation, where artistic endeavors, exploration beyond what is the basic needs of the human condition, lay out for us. Once you're fed, once you're taken care of, there is no need to continue that labor, except for what you want to be doing. It's an extension of what we would consider leisure time in this society, except instead of it being just relaxing to prepare ourselves for the next day of the grind, I think it's more you've committed to what you need to get done and you've gotten all your basic necessities of life out of the way. Now it's time to have fun and play. And so I feel like that's the attitude a lot of the people in that computer science department had. It was more fun to play with writing a program and doing weird, quirky things and knowing that there was something long lasting that was going to come into effect rather than just brute forcing the problem and solving it in a non innovative way. And so for me, the ideal situation for a lot of this is to start making work more fun. Not in the corporate sense of being like, oh, your work is fun, so you should be more productive for us. But no, but like get to a point where we can reach a society where when we've done the basic necessities for all human beings, and you can go over any sort of economic system on how to reach that, right? We're just imagining right now. I'm sure there's people saying all sorts of things or thinking all sorts of things, right? I'm not worried about how we get there, but once we are there, you have this type of dual work. And during the main part of the work, sustenance is maintained. And in the second part, people are innovating, people are creating, art is being done, the human condition is being explored. What would be considered today kind of a bourgeois elite kind of thing that can be explored only by those with a lot of hands already working for them would be extended to the majority of people. And just like when you had a lot of artistic and development in the Enlightenment period, when you had patrons paying for individuals who showed promise to produce their art, and you had a larger selection of population being able to produce said things in the larger scope of society of people who are recording and remembering things at the very least in the idea of history as that goes. I think that it would create a larger scope of exploring the human condition in that way. Exploring the impossible things that I can't even possibly fathom because I'm not extremely artistic. On the flip side, I also think it would bring a lot of fascination into science again and research and development. And we could take a lot of energy and time into that direction to hopefully innovate more and more technologies that will reduce the amount of work that we need to do to have our basic necessities met. And if we've managed to do that off of the backs of, I don't know, say technology or the minimum amount of human requirement, then why would we go any further than that? Why would we decide to work harder than we have to? And again, that's founded in the principles of a computer science department that, generally speaking, tends to be the backbone of a lot of modern business in this day and age, creating tech and software for all these major companies to even function in this current climate and world. And they're functioning almost on this bizarre anarchist communist level. And I think that if you look at the IT departments of most businesses, they're still kind of the quirky people who can maintain some level of autonomy because of just how important their labor is. And while I think that that needs to be expanded much more beyond that, I think that attitude kind of comes into play. And I'm sure there's a lot that of nuance with that, and it's just my personal experience. But that's kind of what I imagine, that technology would make it easier so that over time, as we develop newer and newer technologies, we're able to push further and further away from the amount of work. Maybe we don't need an 8-hour workday anymore. Maybe we could actually get by on a 4-hour workday for our basic necessities, go home and just play. And, you know, I feel like that would just create a better run of things in general. How do we get there? I don't know. You know, um, right now, especially with things being on the cusp of fascism almost a week ago, it seems like it has a lot of, there's a lot of friction preventing us from reaching that point. There's a lot of forces opposing it. But that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. Similar things have happened. The theory's out there. So, however we do get there, I still think it's important that we imagine that reality of making life better for more people, creating less work, more leisure time, more innovation, more everything, and come together cooperatively in this way to start thinking about how to create things for future generations rather than just brute forcing the problems of today. And with that said, my name is Anarchist Tara, and I hope you enjoyed this video.